I played through Doom 2016 a few years back, and up until recently remembered fondly the game's razor-sharp gameplay and hard-as-balls combat. That game starts hard, then rapidly gets more so with every mission until every engagement is a deadly, frantic mixture of projectile dodging ballet and ultra-violent skull-crushing. It was an excellent game, reminding us of what made the original Doom game so special, and at how far the genre had gone astray since then. I was expecting to be comparing Doom Eternal to this game at every turn, deciding whether or not each change was an improvement. But I struggled to do this, as Doom Eternal appears to have overwritten all of the memories I had for Doom 2016. Doom Eternal is still Doom, yet the gameplay mechanics have been reinvented, and the difficulty level ramped up to even higher levels. By the time I finished Eternal's campaign, I felt unstoppable. Put it simply, both games are arena shooters. You get put in confined spaces against an assortment of different enemies, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, and you must beat them all. The beauty of Doom 2016 was they encouraged you to aggressively hunt enemies down by rewarding you health from melee finisher moves. To stay alive in Doom, you had to ignore every gaming instinct you had. No more camping in a corner or sniping them from afar. Doom made you risk life and limb by tearing life from limb in order to save your life and limb. And in that respect, Doom Eternal's more of the same, but ramped up to the next level. A lot about the experience has changed, and I would say that most of it has been for the better, but not everybody feels this way. Reviews say it's more confused about what it wants to be. People have issues about certain gameplay decisions like the limited ammunition and how the chainsaw's been demoted to being just a way of killing easy enemies to get more ammunition whenever you're low. But I've actually found these changes in particular to make it feel more like an amped up version of the 2016 game. Gone is the crouch button, because there are better uses for that key in this game. Your walk button has been replaced with a dash button. Again, far more handy. And rather than starting the game with a pistol, you immediately get given a shotgun, because it's better, and so on. All of these small changes really became apparent when I booted up Doom 2016 again. Back in the older game, you could melee enemies for extra health. But this time around, you have several ways to kill enemies depending on which resource you need the most. If you need health, you punch them in the face, but if you need ammo, you chainsaw them. Or, if you prefer to have armour, you set the enemies on fire and shoot the hell out of them. It doesn't make any sense, but why should it? At the beginning of your playthrough, this is all overwhelming, and your route through the battlefield confused. Surely there's no way you're able to juggle all of your stats and cooldowns. Yet by the end of the campaign, you'll be confidently stringing kills together in clever ways to maximise what you get out of them. And with it, the combat of Doom feels even more like a deadly dance than ever before. The game puts more emphasis on movement. You can double jump, but you can also double dash. And the combination of all these things enables you to pretty much go wherever you want to. Between the combat rooms are platform segments which require you to swing on bars, to dodge flaming spikes, and to scuttle around on climbable surfaces. It's an odd mix. It feels more like a parody of older games than to be a serious aspect for a new one, yet it serves as a brief yet welcome respite from the arenas of enemies, and also lets you hone your agility in preparation for the next combat segment. Because the last thing you want is to be jammed in a corner by a slobbery, sweaty mancubus, or pounded by a big burly baron. A well-timed jump or dash is often the difference between life and death. Thanks to the dash feature, you can launch yourself off a ledge to punch a Keiko demon, and still have enough moves left over to avoid plummeting to your doom. When a game requires this level of precision, it's important that you can trust the controls, and I'm happy to say that the Doom guy seldom let me down. Me, I let him down a lot more, but let's not talk about that. It may look like a mindless gore fest, but there is depth to this experience, and mastery is attainable somewhere amidst the shower of giblets. I can't claim to have achieved this just yet. I still sometimes get confused by which button is for which weapon. The game giveth and the game taketh away. The chainsaw is no longer the same overpowered melee weapon it once was, but we get an overpowered sword in its place. We are more agile than ever, but so are the demons. And while we regularly get extra lives to get us through the more difficult battles, the game is more willing than ever to get you killed. And I'll shoehorn my thoughts about the graphics in here because I couldn't find a better opportunity in this video to do so. The graphics in this game are a joy to behold. They're miraculously well optimised and wonderfully visceral and detailed, whilst conveying a sense of scale that few games can match. The enemies have a more cartoonish look to them than in the previous game. When I see comparison videos, I realise I prefer the older style, but when you're playing Doom Eternal it all looks good and gels together well. Where the game really shines is with the environments. Doom 2016 was mostly red. Missions blended into one another, so for each mission of Eternal to be a different theme and colour palette comes as a welcome change. And this also suits Doom well, since it's just like those older games where it was normal for every level to be set somewhere completely different. back before games got so complex that developers could only justify a handful of themes and enemy types. Doom Eternal feels exactly like a sequel should, bigger and better in almost every way. But not all of what's been added is good. I don't like the home hub that you return to between missions. It seems unnecessary. It's filled with annoying travel around identical corridors and boring animations as you plug batteries into things. And I don't like the story and cutscenes either. Doom 2016 managed to tell so much with so little. Much like Half-Life 2, the story was there if you wanted it, but it never forced it down your throat. You were the Doom guy in that game. But in Doom Eternal, it abruptly tears you away from the action to tell you the story via cutscenes. Seeing the Doom guy in these in third person seems almost sacrilegious. I know why they added them. They wanted to show how badass the Doom guy looks and to tell some kind of backstory. Yet their inclusion of these elements only serves to weaken the impact he has, and to bore me by getting in the way of the pure gameplay this series is famous for. In the previous game, I could really connect with the Doom guy whenever he skipped the story by smashing screens, and by how he quickly grew infuriated by the talky bits. Just like the player, you could tell he was raring to skip past it all in order to hunt out the next action scene instead. There was one bit of Doom Eternal where I liked the cutscenes, and that was with the Mars core mission. Just so you know, Doom 3 came out in 2004 and was different to the other Doom games because it was a survival horror. It was more about being scared and shining flashlights around than it was about crushing demons with your bare hands. These new Doom games have tried to distance themselves from that style, and the Mars core mission in particular feels like they're hammering that home, and doing so with the subtlety of a BFG 10,000. I think it helps that most of these are in the first person, with your guy just trying to push past all the noobs in order to get onto some demon slaying. This brilliant mission takes place in a setting very similar to the one that Doom 3 was set in. The control rooms are full of panicking people screaming about how the demons are overrunning the lower levels. And then enters the Doom guy. One by one, the people in that room turn to notice you, and it's made clear that they seem just as terrified of you as they are of the demons. The heavy metal soundtrack complements this scene perfectly as the Doom guy pushes past the guards and leaps straight into the gates of hell. This whole mission, its objectives and the cutscenes are so stupidly over the top that I can't help but love them. I see this mission as not being what actually happened, but rather how the Doom guy's tale is told by one of the survivors of that ship later on, who's bigging up what happened to impress his mates down the pub. Yes, he used a railgun as a mode of transport. Yes, he blew a hole through the planet just because, and so on. So that was a highlight for me. I normally hate heavy metal, yet it is the perfect soundtrack to accompany this game. I love it and wouldn't dream of playing the game without it. At this point, I had gone through a fair portion of the game and was thoroughly enjoying it. I got the hang of the gameplay and was beginning to feel like I was the Doom guy. In the back of my mind though, I was worried. For I had read the forum posts about this game where everybody seemed to be united in hating the Marauder. This terrifying creature shows up about halfway through the game and utterly breaks the combat by being invincible. Everything else in the room can be killed with enough damage, but this thing brings everything to a stop, working against every gameplay aspect the rest of the game seems so geared around. And sure enough, my first encounter with him was horrible. I lost all of my spare lives immediately and rage quit the game, deciding there and then that the fun was over and I wouldn't enjoy the rest of the game if I had to keep fighting this particular demon. But my abusive relationship with Doom Eternal wasn't to be ended so easily, and within just hours I felt inclined to give it another go, and another, and another. And guess what? Doom worked its magic, forced me to get better, and even the Marauder became something to celebrate. And fear. There's always a bit of fear with these guys. But every encounter I had with one of those after that got easier, and by the end of the game I would say that my battles with these were a highlight of the game for me. I'd clear the arena of other tough threats and then we'd circle one another, waiting for the right moment to strike. With most games, you get better as you play through them, that's a given, but few make your progression feel so obvious as Doom Eternal's does. The Marauder starts out as a boss, but ends the game as being just another creature that it's happy to throw at you. After you've mastered these guys, returning to the earlier missions again feels like a walk in the park. I understand the hatred for the Marauder because he is out of place next to the other enemies. But boy does he let you flex your skills, long after the rest of the enemy types have become simple cannon fodder. The bit of the game that really broke me was Taros Nabad. It felt like the difficulty levels spiked for this one particular level. That first arena and everything within it repeatedly destroyed me and forced me to limp through the rest of the level with 0 spare lives, feeling frustrated that I was suddenly so bad and mortified that the game was only going to get harder afterwards. Google search was my best friend here, and I regularly typed frustrated stuff into it about this game, only to find support groups for gamers who shared similar sentiments about it. Thanks guys, you reassured me that the problem was the game and not me. That level in particular was so hard in fact that after it was over, I refused to go any further for a while. I instead revisited some of the earlier levels again to feel better about myself and my abilities. I used this time to unlock some of the weapon upgrades, and to try and 100% complete a few of the missions. And I actually really enjoyed doing this. The map overview generously gives you all the secrets. In most games I don't bother with this because I assume it takes somebody more patient than myself to find them all. But in this game, once you've unlocked a few perks, you'll be told where everything is even before you get there. And then all you have to do is to figure out how to get there, which could involve some fancy acrobatics or locating a cracked wall somewhere. Most of the stuff you collect is pretty pointless from a gameplay perspective, but I enjoyed it nonetheless, and I guess it must have helped me since when I eventually carried on with the campaign and pushed through to the end of the story, I found it all to be rather manageable and fun compared to that damned Taras Nabad segment. So no, despite initial reservations and a few blips along the way, when I look back at my time with Doom Eternal, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I may not agree with everything that the developers have done, but I can see their vision of what they wanted to achieve with this game, and for the most part, I think it's been a massive success. It changes things that I wouldn't have thought of changing, yet now they have, I can't imagine returning to how they were before. And it's nice to see a sequel that expands on everything too. It throws more monster types, more weapons, more mechanics and more settings at you than its predecessor did. It dares to try new things, and it is unforgiving of mistakes that other games may let you get away with. This is what got me into PC gaming in the first place.